What if I told you that your silence could be more powerful than any argument, more disarming than any insult, more transformative than any apology? What if silence wasn't a sign of surrender, but the purest form of strength? Because according to Nietzsche, those who speak the least often see the most, and those who react the slowest often win without moving. You were taught that silence means weakness, that you must respond to prove your worth. But Nietzsche saw this differently. He believed that in silence, the real power begins, and once you understand what he meant, you will never feel the need to defend yourself again. There's a quiet kind of strength, one that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, and never explains. It waits, it watches, it understands. Nietzsche, one of the most fearless minds in philosophy, believed that real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't seek applause. It simply is. While the world demands reactions, justifications, explanations, Nietzsche invites us into a different path. One of restraint, one of depth, one where your silence becomes your sword and your presence the battlefield. This video isn't about how to win arguments. It's about how to stop playing games you never needed to join. It's about how to stand so deeply in your truth that even in silence, you cannot be shaken. Today, we're entering that silence. Not the kind that hides, but the kind that commands. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling unseen, unheard, or misunderstood, this video was made for you. But before we go deeper, pause with me. Breathe, and subscribe to this channel Decode, because here your silence is not ignored. It is honored, it is studied, and most of all, it is transformed into power. Now, are you ready to learn how to outsmart anyone without saying a word? Let's begin. The illusion of reaction. You were raised in a world that praises loud voices, that rewards quick comebacks, that tells you, if you don't speak, you'll be left behind. But Nietzsche warned us, this obsession with reacting is a sign of something deeper, an anxious ego afraid of being invisible. We've been trained to believe that silence is a void, when in truth, silence is a mirror. And most people can't bear to look into it. They fill the air with words not to connect, but to distract. Not to reveal themselves, but to defend who they pretend to be. And so the game begins. You speak, they interrupt. You explain, they twist. You raise your voice, they raise theirs higher, until all that remains is noise and exhaustion. But what if you didn't play? What if, in the middle of their storm, you stayed still? Nietzsche believed that most arguments aren't about truth. They're about dominance. And the one who stays calm, who doesn't flinch, who refuses to be pulled into chaos, is the one who wins, without a single word. Because in that moment, you stop being the participant and become the observer, and the observer holds the power. So the next time someone tries to pull you into their whirlwind, pause, breathe, do nothing. Your silence will do more than words ever could. It will expose them. Because silence is not the absence of response. It is the response. How silence breaks their control. Imagine standing across from someone who thrives on reactions, a manipulator, a bully, someone who feeds on control. Now imagine giving them nothing. No anger, no defense, not even a glance that says you care. Just silence. Nietzsche saw this as a devastating weapon. Not because it harms, but because it reveals. You see, most people don't talk to connect. They talk to control the narrative, to convince themselves they're right, to keep their insecurities hidden behind noise. But when you fall silent, you strip away that comfort. Suddenly, their words hang in the air, unanswered, unjustified, unreturned, and their brain starts to panic. Modern psychology confirms what Nietzsche sensed long ago. Silence creates cognitive dissonance. The human mind expects a reaction. A reply, a defense, even an argument. When it gets none, it spirals. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, lights up. Why aren't you saying anything? Did I say something wrong? Are they judging me? Do they see right through me? This spiral doesn't need your words. Your silence does the work. Because silence is projection. And the louder their inner critic is, the more your stillness becomes unbearable. In their fear, they start revealing too much, over-explaining, contradicting themselves, showing weakness they were trying to hide. You didn't attack them, you didn't insult them, you didn't even flinch, and yet you just made them unravel. This is the hidden brilliance of silence. It makes people confront what they fear most, their own reflection. And Nietzsche would say, this is where your true intelligence begins, not in speaking, but in watching them collapse under the weight of their own masks. The four weapons of Nietzschean. Silence. Nietzsche didn't believe in passive silence. He believed in charged silence, alive with meaning, intention, and psychological precision. This isn't the silence of fear. It's the silence of a mind that has already won. Here are the four silent weapons Nietzsche would place in your hands. The weapon of self-mastery. The first weapon is your ability to not react, even when everything inside you screams to. That moment when someone lies about you, when they twist your words, when they try to shame you in public, you want to respond, to correct them, to reclaim your dignity. But Nietzsche would tell you, that need is the prison, because once you respond, you are no longer free. You're tied to their chaos. Real power is staying seated while others rise in desperation to prove themselves. When you master that impulse, you own yourself. The weapon of observation. While others speak, you listen. But not like someone waiting to reply. You listen like a storm watches the earth, with patience and precision. You see the cracks behind their confidence. You hear the fear between their words. You notice their need to be seen, to be validated, to be right, and you give them nothing. Your silence isn't ignorance. It's awareness sharpened like a blade. You collect information. You map their emotional patterns. So when, and only when, you choose to speak, your words land like thunder, not loud, but undeniable. The weapon of the pause. Silence isn't just a space between words. It is the message. Let the pause stretch. Let it hurt. When someone attacks you and you respond with nothing, the silence presses on their nerves. They begin to second-guess, unravel, lose ground. That pause? It's not absence. It's pressure. It's a quiet demand. Face yourself, and most people can't. The weapon of unpredictability. The moment you master silence, you become unreadable. People don't know what you're thinking. They don't know if you're hurt, bored, furious, or amused. They don't know if you'll reply or just disappear. And the unknown is terrifying, because when they can't predict you, they can't control you. You become the axis, the gravitational center of the interaction. They orbit you now. Nietzsche believed that unpredictability wasn't chaos, it was freedom, and silence is its armor. These are not passive strategies, they are tools of dominance. Not over others, but over yourself. When used with intention, your silence becomes louder than 1,000 shouted words. You don't need to raise your voice, because your stillness already speaks. 4. The danger of submissive silence. Not all silence is power. Some silence is a wound. Nietzsche knew this too. He warned us, you are not free when you are silent out of fear. Because the silence that comes from fear is not strength. It's self-erasure. Let's be honest. How many times have you bitten your tongue not because you chose to, but because you felt you had to? You didn't want to make waves. You didn't want to be too much. You didn't want to lose the people who already took you for granted. So, you smiled, you nodded, you stayed quiet. And they took that silence as permission. Nietzsche would call this slave morality, a morality built on guilt, shame, and the desperate desire to be accepted. It's the kind of silence that gives others the power to rewrite your story. It's the kind of silence that destroys you softly, while making you feel noble for it. But there's nothing noble about shrinking yourself to keep the peace. That's not peace. That's submission. That's not maturity. That's abandonment of self. There's a high cost to this kind of silence. Your needs go unmet. Your boundaries get blurred. Your presence becomes invisible even to yourself. And then, one day, you wake up and realize you're not even living your own life. You're just existing to keep others comfortable. Nietzsche would say, that is the true tragedy. So the question is no longer, should I be silent? The real question is, what kind of silence am I practicing? Is it the silence of a warrior or the silence of someone quietly disappearing? You must know the difference, because one will set you free and the other will bury you. The Übermensch and the silence of presence. Nietzsche didn't believe in silence as retreat. He believed in silence as radiance, the quiet aura of someone who doesn't beg to be understood because they understand themselves. He called this rare figure the Übermensch, the one who transcends herd thinking, who no longer lives for approval, who walks through life not to react, but to reshape. And the first sign you are becoming this person? You speak less. Not because you have nothing to say, but because your energy is too valuable to be wasted on noise. The Übermensch carries a silence that moves rooms. They don't argue. They don't explain. They don't flinch because they know who they are. And when you know who you are, your presence becomes a conversation all on its own. This silence isn't passive. It's alive. It watches. It chooses. It commands. And it does something extraordinary. It makes other people see themselves more clearly. You've seen it before. That person who walks in and says nothing, yet shifts the entire energy of the space. The kind of presence that doesn't ask for attention, but receives it anyway. That's Nietzschean silence, not absence, power. It's not about being cold. It's about being so centered that nothing outside of you can disturb your core. You no longer chase validation. You no longer fear rejection. You no longer react to projections. Because you are not performing, you are being. And this is where you begin to outsmart everyone, not by overpowering them, but by no longer needing anything from them. And in that wholeness, you become unshakable. Living the silence, moment by moment, knowing is not enough. Nietzsche didn't want you to admire the Übermensch. He wanted you to become one, not someday, but now. In the smallest, quietest, most invisible moments of your day. That's where it begins. When someone interrupts you, pause. Let your silence speak louder than correction. When you're misunderstood, breathe. Let the truth stay unspoken. You don't owe everyone clarity. When a manipulator tries to trigger you, watch. Let your calmness rattle their control. When you feel that old pull, to explain, to justify, to earn worth, remember, your worth is not up for debate. This is the true will to power Nietzsche spoke of. Not the will to dominate others, but the will to master yourself, your emotions, your reactions, your silence. It's not easy. This kind of silence takes strength. It will feel lonely at first. It will feel unnatural. It may even feel like you're losing something, but you're not. You're leaving behind what was never yours to carry. the need to be liked, the hunger to be right, the fear of being invisible. And in its place, you gain something deeper, a voice that doesn't need to shout, a truth that doesn't need defending, a power that doesn't need permission. This is not detachment, this is arrival. So here's your choice. Keep reacting, explaining, defending, or begin your quiet rebellion. Start today. In one moment, one conversation, one breath. Hold your silence, let it shape the space. Let it make others feel. Let it command without control. And when you finally speak, let it be a whisper that topples walls. Now, if you felt something shift in you during this video, not just a thought, but a sense that you've been giving away your power for far too long, then leave a comment below. I choose the silence that commands respect. Write it not just for me, but for you. So your nervous system hears it, so your old patterns know their time is up, and don't stop here. The next video will take you deeper, because this isn't just about silence, it's about rebirth. Remember, the weak shout, the strong remain silent, and the wise choose when. Now go, be still, and let the world feel you without a word.